Hey, what's going on, my fellow atheists and atheist-friendly people? It's been a while, actually, since I did my last episode. I had a lot going on. Had to go down for some training down in Arkansas for the job that I have. Got sick. This whole coronavirus thing that's been sparking up. Just been taking care of a lot of stuff. So sorry I haven't made an episode in a while, but I'm ready to get back at it and get going. Yeah, to touch on this whole coronavirus thing real quick, I don't really know how to take it. Is it serious? Is it not serious? Is this something that the media is just overplaying? I mean, if you look at, the history, every time there's a presidential election, there's some kind of virus or disease or something that's going on. I mean, you also look at, the reason why this is broken out. And I mean, I don't specifically have a reason at all. I'm not going to jump to any conspiracy theories or anything like that, but I mean, if you think about it, there was a bunch of protesting going on out in China, and all of a sudden this virus shows up, and now the streets are clear. Too many things to put together. Don't want to come up with any conclusions because obviously I'm not an expert and I'm all about skepticism. I don't have any answers for you guys. Just stay safe, wash your hands, do the regular things that you need to do to make sure that this doesn't happen inside of your house, or at least try and help it. So today we're going to be going over a big issue within the realms of talking to theists and talking to atheists, having these fruitful conversations. And that is a 5-letter word called faith. So faith has a lot of different definitions for it. I mean, when you think of what is faith, it could mean so many different things. People use it in so many different ways within their life, whether you're religious or not. And I'm actually going to dive into a little bit about what each of these mean, how we can use them, the issues with some of these definitions, and what I believe faith is, my definition and my take on faith, and ways that you can try and tear down an argument. Once you've already brought it down to that, you have to take it by faith measure, either at the very beginning or towards the end of the argument. A lot of times you'll get, well, you just have to take it on faith, or it all starts with faith. I find that as a huge problem. And we're going to be going into why that's a problem. So first thing we need to do whenever we're talking to somebody that boils down to faith, we need to ask them what they mean by faith. How do they define faith? There's one where there's not really too much confusion when you're talking about it, and it's, what's your faith? Are you the Christian faith? Or are you the Muslim faith? Everybody's pretty much on the same page when it comes to that. They don't have to, explain why they think they're the Christian faith or the Mormon faith. I mean, that's used as a belief, and that's what actually in the dictionary it says. It says there's a couple different definitions for it. But the first definition is a belief. That's what it boils down to, is a belief in the dictionary, which I'm not going to argue with. If you want to go ahead and say that you are part of the Christian faith, I understand what you mean. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, but that's not the only way that we use faith. So we can push that one to the side saying, hey, we already gotten that one pretty notched up when it comes to understanding what people mean when they say they have faith in that type of manner. A lot of people will go to the second definition, having like trust and confidence in something. That's what they boil down to faith. A lot of times, most of the time when it comes to my personal experience, I've gotten I have faith that this chair is going to hold me up. So I have an issue with that because we're comparing a chair holding you up to be equivalent with my God, who has all supernatural powers and can supervise my entire life and tell me what I can and can't eat and who I can and can't sleep with and in what position. It's not exactly a good comparison, if you will. So when it comes to that, I have an issue with trust and confidence, because if you're using faith to explain trust and confidence, why muddy the waters with adding the word faith to it? If you have trust and confidence in something, just say you have trust and confidence. Don't add this extra word that's got all these umpteen different definitions for it and try and use it to bolster your religious beliefs. If I have trust and confidence in something, that means that I can be wrong. If you have faith in something, for example, a God belief, and you know that your God exists 100%, that means that your faith could not lead you down the wrong path. And I'll actually get into that a little bit later. When it comes to the trust and confidence part, just use trust and confidence. Don't say I have faith and that's equivalent to trust and confidence. We already have words that mean certain things. Don't add this extra word that doesn't mean anything when it comes to comparing it to trust and confidence. Another definition of faith comes straight out of the Bible. And this is the one that I like to use because most of the people that I talk to say that the Bible is the true word of God. It's the authoritative word of God. Hebrews 11:1 states that faith, and this is two different parts in the same exact sentence. It states that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So let's focus on that first one, the substance of things hoped for. So I have no problem with hope. I hope for a lot of things. Hope is basically a confidence level or a type of optimism for things panning out the way that you want them to be. I hope that I keep my job. I hope that my kids stay healthy. That hope is perfectly fine. We're not boiling it down to an absolute certainty. By hoping something, I'm not saying that I know my kids are going to be fine. They may not be. They may get sick. They may, my son goes to a daycare all week long, and he may come home with some nasty bacteria that some other kids brought to the daycare. I don't know, but I can always hope that they are healthy. So the substance of things hoped for, that could be taken so many different ways. So substance of things hoped for, I see as, the hope of hope. It doesn't make much sense to me. And a lot of times when I talk to believers, like I said, most of the time, since I'm living in, America, the most predominant faith that I come across is Christianity. So when I say, what is faith? And they go to Hebrews 11:1, I got a series of questions that I need to ask them, just to make sure that we have clarity. If we don't have clarity, then we're going to start talking past each other. And a lot of people think that interrupting is bad. Interrupting is rude. You shouldn't do that. In a lot of cases, it is rude. But in some cases, if you're trying to get down to understanding and being on the same page as the person that you're talking to, there's really no problem with interruption. If you're trying to have them define terms that they haven't defined yet, or if you're just trying to make sure you're on the same page so you guys can continue the conversation without being, 15 pages apart from each other, that is fine. Because at the end of it, if you don't get clarity, then you're going to go right back to square one. And the conversation really means nothing at that point. So back to Hebrews 11:1. Substance of things hoped for, that's one thing. And then the evidence of things not seen. So that means that if faith is the evidence, that means that they are apart from actual empirical evidence. If I have evidence for something, I don't need faith. I can just produce the evidence. So how do I define faith? I define faith like my favorite atheist. I define faith as gullibility. I define faith as believing in something that you have no good reason for, or good reason to believe. If I have faith in this chair, and you're going to use that as the trust and confidence, then that means that this chair cannot fall. This chair cannot break. I have trust and confidence in this chair due to evidence. And that evidence is me sitting down in this same chair multiple times in my past and it not falling over. Now, that doesn't mean that the next time I sit in it, it's not going to fall over. But it's shown me its durability. I have evidence, I have personal experiences, and every single personal experience that you ever have is evidence of some sort. It could be anecdotal evidence, but it is evidence of some sort. So every time I sit in this chair, it doesn't fall over. It feels sturdy. It's held me in here for hours upon hours at a time. I have evidence to provide a reasoning for having trust and confidence in this chair. Faith is not like that. If faith is the evidence of things not seen, if it's not seen, that's, in other words, in my interpretation, a lack of evidence. If you don't have any real evidence, let's chalk it up to faith and take it by faith. So what if I'm a Muslim and I say, I know that Allah exists and I take that on faith? Or if I'm a Mormon and I say Joseph Smith did what he did and everything in the Book of Mormon is correct, true, and authoritative, that means that I can take that on faith. And then that provides my absolute certainty and provides my reasoning for believing in what I believe. Well, they can't all three be right. Christianity, Islam, and Mormonism. They can't all be correct, but they can all be incorrect. Since they are monotheistic religions, if they all take it by faith, that means 2/3 of what I just mentioned are incorrect. Now, does that seem like a reliable pathway to truth? It is not. If 2/3 can be wrong, if 1 out of 100 can be wrong, it is not a reliable pathway to truth. That's the issue that I have with faith to begin with. Now, a lot of times people will say, oh, well, you just take that on blind faith. And then the believer will say, no. My faith is backed by evidence. Okay, cool. So you have a belief. That belief is bolstered by faith, and that faith is based by evidence. So in turn, you're saying your belief is based on evidence. So provide the evidence. We can throw faith out of here right now. If faith is just the middleman tying the belief to the evidence, we don't need faith. Throw it out. That's the issue that I have if you're using it as the evidence of things not seen. Now, like I said before, anybody can use faith for anything. I could say I am superior to black people because I'm white. And I take that on faith. Now, just because I have faith in that, does that mean that I'm correct? No, it does not. Because now we need to get into different situations. Are we talking about how fast I am? If I was to get into a foot race, which I can guarantee you right now, I probably wouldn't win, depending on the person. If you look at the Olympics, a lot of our fastest runners, the fastest, I think his name's Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt, he is the fastest runner in the world. He's black. If I was to say that I am the greatest human in the world, point blank, better than any other human, that is a positive claim that I would need to bring evidence for. But if I just say I take it on faith, then you can't do anything about it. But I'm also exhibiting how I am leaving reason, how I'm not using reason within this realm of my life. Because if I just take it on faith, that means that you can't falsify it because you don't know my faith. And it just gets into this big muddy rabbit hole that we go down to where it's unnecessary. It's unneeded. A lot of times I'll come across to where I've used this whole argument and I've brought it down to them being unreasonable. I've brought it down to, having faith in anything. You could literally take faith on any proposition you could ever think of. And that doesn't mean that it's actually true. Then I get, well, you have faith too. No, you have faith too. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're saying that you're unreasonable, but I'm unreasonable too? That's an admittance that you have absolutely left reason. That's an admittance that your belief system or your foundation for your belief isn't holding itself up. It is just playing this childish game of I'm bad well, you're bad too, or I'm unreasonable and so are you. And let's just say we get to the bottom of it all and they're not willing to part from faith. That's fine. You can have faith in whatever you want to, but if it comes down to a God belief, that faith does not describe what kind of God you're providing this faith for. You will have to presuppose whatever God that you currently believe in and presuppose his existence to be able to say you have faith in this God. It's unreasonable. It doesn't lead you to truth. It's not a reliable pathway to finding out what's actually true. And if the person that you're talking to is not worried about that and they just want to have faith because they want to have faith, because they want to believe in what they want to believe in, a lot of people sometimes say that, the conversation's over with. And a lot of times I will agree. The conversation is pretty much over with. Try and plant the seed, though. Try and at least get them thinking about it. Ask them, would you like to have a conversation at a later date? And maybe revisit this. Psychologically speaking, for somebody to remember something, it takes about 3 times for you to say it for them to actually latch onto it. So try and plant that seed. Try and at least get them to think about it. You're not going to convert somebody on the first day or the first conversation. That's not how this works. This is a very long and drawn out process of them being indoctrinated into a belief or spend a lot of time listening to somebody tell them how true these things really are. It wasn't an overnight thing that they started believing, which means that it's not going to be an overnight thing trying to deconvert. Maybe you're not trying to deconvert. Maybe you're just trying to have a good conversation. You're not going to get them to reason on the first day. So my only advice is to keep asking these questions, keep asking them and providing them these situations to where faith works against what they believe. And if they are using the same argument for their belief and the way that they're using faith, and you keep bringing up all these other situations to where other proclamations of faith are in contradiction with their own, they could eventually see the difference or the mistake that they're making. I hope this bit of information can help you out when it comes to having a conversation with somebody and they bring it down to faith. They bring the conversation or their belief to, you have to take it on faith. It happens a lot. It typically, almost every single time you have a conversation, boils down to faith at some point in time, depending on how you break the situation down. So I really hope this information was good for you guys. If you have any ways of doing it yourself that you've found successful, please bring it to the table. Let me know. Shoot me a message on SoundCloud. Put a comment in there, something like that. With somehow get in touch with me so I can possibly bring it up in a later episode. So that kind of wraps it up when it comes to what I have to say about faith. We can get into it in a conversation that I may have or an interview I may have later in these episodes that I may be putting out. Just want to plug it in here. I am going to be on a different podcast, not a different one, another one other than this one. This one's strictly for just basically talking to atheists about how they can have better conversations with theists. I'm actually going to be on a podcast with one of my good friends who is a Christian apologist, and it's going to be called The Battle for Truth. He's kind of in charge of putting it out there on the media platforms, but I think he said it's going to be on every single large platform when that comes to like iTunes, Spotify, the whole works. This one right here is on SoundCloud, and I'm working on getting it kind of bolstered out towards all the mainstream, the rest of the mainstream media platforms. But we're going to be doing a podcast to where it's going to be us having a conversation with each other, that you can see all of my arguments in action. You can see the way that I'm using them. You can see in which ways that I bring them up at certain times, and maybe it can help. Maybe it can just entertain you. but at the same time, maybe you can try and take some of these arguments and use them in your own life. Other than that, I appreciate you guys for listening. Like I said, sorry I I didn't have an episode for a long time, but I will definitely keep up the hard work and try and get some more content for you guys to listen to. I really appreciate you guys listening, and I will see you next time.